Hey there, welcome back. Okay, around here, we are not concerned so much with counting calories or counting fat grams or counting carbs or anything like that. What we do here is we try to just take out all of the toxins, the stuff that God never intended us to eat. So we're taking out the pesticides, the herbicides, the fungicides away from the food because we're going to ingest it, right? So my family has been using baking powder for a long time. I mean, it's a generational thing. We use Clabber Girl baking powder. And then one day I was shopping for baking powder and I saw on the grocery store shelf, it said, there was a red can right next to it. And I want to say it's Rumford. It was another brand and it said aluminum free. Well, we do have Alzheimer's on that side of the family. And that's something that's concerning to all of us. And so we're just trying to take out the toxins, right? I've had conversations with family members that have a really high allergic reaction to aluminum. They've changed deodorants. What I want to talk about is, and I don't know if you're like me, but for years I thought you had to buy baking powder, which is just not true at all. And so this is baking soda. But I have started making my own baking powder. And again, I mean, this doesn't have anything to do with gardening, but it does. Because we're making things from the garden. We're making we're using rosemary, we're using basil, we're using a lot of things, garlic, we're using a lot of things from the garden that we don't spray anything on. Here at Edible Gardens, we don't spray any pesticides, herbicides, or fungicides, right? So when we buy something from the store, I want to be sure that it doesn't have anything in it that we don't want. So that's why I started gardening in the first place. That's my big why. I wanted to take out all the toxins. So it's 1 part baking soda, 2 parts cream of tartar, and 1 part cornstarch. Now, really, to make baking powder, the only thing you really need is 1 part baking soda and 2 parts cream of tartar. I always get those two mixed up. So 1 part baking soda, 2 parts cream of tartar. But when you mix it together, you know how baking soda clumps. I always make sure when I put baking soda in a recipe, I always want to make sure that I crumble it up with my fingers, because if you've ever bit into a brownie or a piece of cake or something like that where that didn't get dissolved all the way, it's gross. It's terrible. So it's like biting into, chalk or something. So you put the cornstarch in there. You just need some kind of medium that keeps it from clumping, okay? And that's the only reason why you add the cornstarch. You can add something else like arrowroot powder or something else that acts like a cornstarch. So basically it's just to keep it where when you mix it together, and we're gonna do that here in just a minute, when you mix it together, it keeps that baking soda from clumping. Okay, we're gonna take 1 part baking soda, and I'm using a tablespoon. You can use a teaspoon, you can use a 1/4 cup. It depends on how much you wanna make and how often you use it. Just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to use a tablespoon. So that's 1 part. So a tablespoon of baking soda, and then 2 tablespoons of cream of tartar. 1, 2. Okay, if I were to put this mixture, even if I mix it up, let's just say I mix it up really good, it's still gonna clump. Trust me, ask me how I know. It's because I did it without the cornstarch first. If I mix all that up really, really good, and I can just put it in the jar and just shake it, when it settles down and it sits there over time, it is going to settle and it's going to clump, just because it has that baking soda in it. So that's why we're going to add the cornstarch. So this is the cornstarch. And then I'm going to mix that up really good. And that just kind of helps those particles just kind of float a little bit. You can mix it up with anything you like. You can mix it up with a fork, You can shake it up in the bottle. Okay, so here, I'm gonna make darn sure that I'm not putting this back in the baking soda. But this is my baking powder. So I am going to use my canning funnel because I like to use the mason jars. I already had some, but I thought, you know, it's the baking season, and baking powder was one of those things that was hard to find. And even if you could find it, you had to get what you had to, you know, what they had available. And I don't want to use the aluminum baking powder, but I've actually been doing this myself for a while. I don't use the Clabber Girl baking powder anymore because it has aluminum in it. As a matter of fact, I was looking at the back. I was telling somebody else about it, and I was looking at the back of, I want to say it's Rumford. It's the one in the red can. It's right beside the Clabber Girl. And I turned it over, and it had just been purchased. So the company had just been purchased by Clabber Girl, and it didn't say aluminum free anymore. Now I turned it over and I looked at the label on the back, and I wish I had one of those to show you, and I just don't keep those anymore. So it didn't say aluminum free on the front anymore. I don't know if it was because they didn't want to hurt the Clabber Girl business, but on the back of the label, it did not say that it included aluminum. I want to say it's aluminum sulfate or something like that. So it didn't include in the ingredients, it did not have aluminum in it. So why they did that, I don't know, but I'm just making my own from now on. But what's really ironic is that this is Clabber Girl brand cornstarch, and it's non-GMO. So why would they add the aluminum to the baking powder? I don't get it. So if they're concerned about, you know, people that have health concerns in that they don't want to eat any toxins or anything that's, you know, God never meant for us to eat, then why are they putting it in the Clabber Girl baking powder that my family has eaten for years? My grandma used to make homemade tortillas. Every single day when I was there, I would wake up to the smell of fresh homemade tortillas. So I wonder, when did they start putting it in there to begin with? And why did they start putting it in there to begin with? Because, as I say, I was really skeptical of this. Is this really gonna work? But I used it to make my homemade tortillas. I've used it to make our homemade biscuits. I've used it to make, oh, you ought to see our biscuits. They're just beautiful. We haven't bought canned biscuits in years. We use it to make our waffles. We use our Mickey Mouse waffles when the grandkids come over. And it works just fine. So why put it in there? I mean, is it because, you know, it makes it stable on the grocery store shelves? And for years, I thought you had to buy baking powder. Well, you don't. One more thing that I wanted to mention is cream of tartar was one of those really hard things to find. Now, this is not cream of tartar, but used to when we would buy cream of tartar, it was in one of these little bitty, this is McCormick brand, this is cloves, but it would come in a little thing like this. And it's really hard to get like a tablespoon or anything like that. So I don't like buying these little containers anymore. As a matter of fact, I hardly ever buy herbs and spices anymore because I sell them myself. But there's some things I'm just not able to grow. Cream of tartar is one of them. I mean, maybe I can, but I don't know how. This amount of cream of tartar is like, I want to say around $3. But this amount of cream, so this is not even an ounce. It's about a half an ounce, depending on what's in this thing. This is 2 pounds of cream of tartar, and I want to say this was like around $10. So, and I do use cream of tartar just by itself in recipes. So this was hard to find in the store. Couldn't find it. So I went online and I bought it. This is by Pure brand, and it's kosher. So to me, kosher is as good as, or maybe even better than organic in a lot of cases. So yeah, I just started buying it in the big bag because I couldn't find the little jar of cream of tartar, but I could find it here. Come to find out, whole lot cheaper. So yeah, and then I usually just put my cream of tartar in one of these little jars that I keep on my handy dandy little spice rack. So, but I did put a video together. If you want to watch it, you can catch it right here of how I put this spice rack together. But that'll do it for now. I thought, you know, we're getting into the baking season, and actually I have a friend that I'm doing this video specifically for on how you make your own homemade baking powder. So, hey Keith Ann. All right, we'll talk to you guys later. Oh, and if you haven't done so already, don't forget to subscribe. If you've already done that, you don't have to hit it again. And if you hit the little bell down here, it'll alert you when I put up a new video. And there's a little share button down here. You can click the share button and you can send it to someone either via text or on Facebook, and we love it when you share. And give us a comment down here below. Did you know that you can make your own baking powder? So, for the longest time, I didn't know that. I thought you had to buy it, but you don't. All right, and so much cheaper, and so many reasons to do it. I can't think of any reasons not to do it. And it's just fast. If I wasn't talking about it, I could have done this in like less than a minute. So, all right, talk to you guys later. Bye for now.